So today we're going to talk about how to burn your belly fat extremely fast. This is an extension of a previous video I did on 5 important tips. So today we're going to cover the 6th through the 10th tip. But let me just do a quick recap for those of you that have not seen the first video, and I will put a link down below because that's a really important video that you get as a foundation, okay? All right, tip number 1. If our goal is to burn the most fat, we want to get the body into a state of ketosis. And ketosis is keeping your carbs very, very low, okay? And I'm talking about your net carbs. Net carbs are the total carbs minus the fiber carbs. And there are certain carbs that you don't count as a part of a ketogenic plan. And those are the leafy green salads. But we don't count those carbs because we want to include those carbs because of the amount of potassium, magnesium, vitamin C, and a lot more nutrients, including the phytonutrients. So salads, even though they're mostly carbohydrate, they're the type of carbohydrates that are not going to be a problem. They're not going to raise insulin. So if you have a large salad, you're eating a lot of fiber that even though it's a carbohydrate, it won't trigger insulin. So fiber and fat are the 2 things that won't trigger insulin. And this is why you want to put olive oil on the salad as a pure fat. So that way we don't trigger insulin as well. And then on top of that, we want to put vinegar. You can do balsamic or apple cider vinegar because vinegar is another thing that is really good to help regulate your blood sugars as well as lower insulin, despite you even eating some carbs. So that vinegar is going to be very, very important. And the other tip I'm going to recommend is eat your salad first, then the protein and fat. Because if you do it the other way around, eating your protein or fat first, you may not be hungry enough to finish the salad. And of course, I do recommend 7 to 10 cups of salad per day. It might seem like a lot, but when I talk about 7 or 10 cups, I'm talking about small handfuls. Okay, so it's not that much. Next thing is protein. The size of protein you need is between 3.5 ounces to 6 ounces, maybe 7 or 8, depending on your size. So if you're a male, you need the protein the size of the palm of your hand times 2. If you're a female, just have 1 serving of protein the size of the palm of your hand, just to keep it really, really simple. Of course, this is going to vary depending on your age, your metabolism, your activity level, if you work out, etc. It's also going to vary if you're going to do 2 meals a day or 1 meal a day. The less meals that you have per day, of course, you're not going to have the same amount as if you were to have 2 meals because that's just a tremendous amount of protein. So when you start doing things like OMAD, 1 meal a day, your requirements for these nutrients, even amino acids, go down because the body starts to adapt. The other important point about protein is to make sure that you don't do the lean protein, okay? You want the fattiest protein you can find because there's something called the insulin index, and that is the index that relates to foods increasing insulin. If you were to do no-fat protein, like whey protein powder, you would trigger insulin a lot more than if you had some other fatty meat or fattier protein. So make sure that if you're eating chicken, you have the skin on it. Make sure if you have fish, have the skin on it and consume the fattiest fish that you can find. Like sardines are really good in their own oil versus just in water. And either eat a fatty steak or maybe hamburger with higher amounts of fat. This is just going to keep your insulin levels the lowest possible. All right, number 3 is dietary fat, okay? You want to, especially in the beginning of this program, add more fat to your diet. And the reason for that is that it will allow you to fast longer because programs that are low fat will not be very satisfying. So it's really going to be hard to go for periods of time without eating. So by adding more fat, you're going to feel more satiated and you can fast longer. Now, it is true, the more fat you eat, the more your body's going to burn those calories instead of your own fat. But in the beginning, when you're starting this program, it's just really, really crucial to be able to fast longer and allow your body to switch over from sugar burning into fat burning. And fasting is going to do that. You see, as soon as you adapt to ketones, 2 things will happen. Your cravings go away and your appetite goes away, making it very, very easy to stick to this program and not go off the program. Can you imagine doing a program with cravings? I mean, it's like torture. And so when you do this program, what you have to realize is in between the meals, your body is eating. Okay, it's eating your own fat. And that's what we want you to do. We want you to fast as long as possible, ideally. And that extra fat at the end of the meal will set you up to do that. But then as you progress over some weeks and you're really adapted and you're grooved in and everything's going good, if you want to speed things up, you can lower the dietary fat, okay? Because you've already adapted, you can lower the fat, not really low, but just don't add extra fat to the diet. And that will allow you to tap into your own fat more than the dietary fat. All right, number 4, we talked about nutrients when you're doing this. Make sure you do electrolytes as well as B vitamins. I recommend nutritional yeast as one good source of natural B vitamins. Both of these sets of nutrients, the minerals and the B vitamins, will prevent most side effects from doing a fat-burning ketogenic plan, like keto fatigue, keto rash, keto flu. And as an important part of these nutrients, sea salt is also very important, because what happens as you reduce your carbs, you're going to reduce a lot of fluid in the body. And with the loss of fluid comes a loss of electrolytes and salts. And if you don't add those back in, you might do this fat burning program and feel kind of weak, feel some lethargy, etc. So make sure you take these nutrients as you do the ketogenic plan, as well as doing fasting. All right, number 5, you want to add something desirable, pleasurable to this program to make it so you don't feel deprived. So many people are giving up a lot of junk food, and then they get bored on the ketogenic plan unless they make it interesting or add some type of food that mimics or resembles some of these pleasure foods that they had. For example, I like to do chocolate after I eat. Of course, I don't do this late at night, and the chocolate is totally keto friendly. It doesn't have any actual sugars. It has sugar alcohols. It also does not have these new fibers like the soluble corn fibers and the tapioca fibers or the dextrin. You want to leave those out of that chocolate. So sometimes as a little dessert that keeps it really kind of pleasurable, I'll mix some whole cream with pecans and some keto-friendly chocolate chips. For me, that is the best dessert. But there are hundreds of different keto desserts that you can make, especially when you start out on this program, because it's all new and you want to get grooved in. So I will put a link down below so you can go to that part of my website that I have a lot of these recipes. All right, that was a quick summary of 1 through 5, okay? Now let's go to 6. And 6 is reducing your stress. What you might not realize is that experience stress, especially chronic stress, is almost equivalent to consuming sugar, okay? Yes, because stress activates a hormone called cortisol. Cortisol, or another name for cortisol, is called glucocorticoids, okay? Because it mobilizes glucose. It turns things into glucose, like protein or fat or even ketones. Your body under stress will mobilize extra proteins that it might not need, or have extra proteins like in your thigh muscle, in your butt muscle, and start to use that as energy when you go through this chronic stress states. There's even a condition called Cushing syndrome, which involves a high level of cortisol, okay? And you usually see this body shape where it's all midsection, skinny legs, no butt, because a lot of that protein is then converted into sugar, which is then converted into fat. So we want to reduce stress as much as possible. If you reflect back on your life and when you started gaining weight, chances are it happened after a stress event, maybe pregnancy, maybe a major, relationship stress like a divorce or some type of a loss. All of these stresses can severely impact your blood sugars. So what do we have to do? We have to counter stress. It's impossible to completely get rid of stress, but what you can do is you can kind of manage it, okay? So I would identify those people that stress you out, because it's usually people, and then put them over here for now, like just avoid them for a while. Now that might sound like a trivial thing, but it's a huge thing. If you were in an environment that did not have any stressful people, and you're around people that brought you up instead of bringing you down, your adrenals would be very, very happy. The other thing is to avoid the news because the news is mostly bad news, and sometimes it's exaggerated bad news. And you just don't need that, especially if you're trying to lose weight. I've mentioned this before in my videos, but physical work, even as compared to exercise, can help you reduce cortisol because it not only mobilizes your body, it gets your mind off problems. So anything you can do to get your mind off the problem would be a very beneficial thing for stress. Long walks in nature. All right, number 6, stress also relates to 7, which is sleep. The more stress you go through, the less sleep you're going to have. When you don't sleep well, you have higher levels of cortisol. This is why people want to snack if they're tired, because of this down cortisol wave that comes up and down. Not to mention, most of the fat that you burn is while you're sleeping, not during the day. So anything you can do to get a little more sleep will definitely help you. Real quick story. I had a patient who came in and she went through another program for a whole year, okay, exercise program. And for the whole year, I think she lost 1 or 2 pounds. It might have been just 1 pound for the whole year, okay? She was exercising 3 times a week, 2 hours each workout, okay? When I saw her, she was very depressed. And I've isolated not her diet being that bad, but her sleep was crappy. We focused on the sleep. We helped her sleep. And guess what? She started to finally lose weight. It's really bizarre that you fix something like sleeping where you're doing nothing, when in actuality, you're doing something. You're allowing your body to heal and repair, and that's when you burn fat. So if you go to bed a little earlier, like a half an hour earlier, okay, and you try to sleep in another half hour later, believe it or not, that will greatly help you lose weight. And you won't be as hungry because the appetite will be down. Number 8 tip, at the very heart of the problem with trying to lose weight is this thing called insulin resistance, okay? That is the real cause of what's going on in your body that is not allowing the fat to come off easily. It's the thing that caused you to hit this set point that you're not able to get below a certain weight, regardless of what you do. So what we want to do is really hyper focus on this insulin resistance, and we want to fix that. And there's a couple things, in addition to the other things I mentioned, that you can do to speed things up. First of all, on a regular basis, you add apple cider vinegar, like a tablespoon in water, okay, throughout the day. That is going to help regulate your blood sugars, and it's going to make insulin more sensitive, so it doesn't go too high. It'll go lower. So it'll lower blood sugars and insulin. And then also cinnamon within your foods is a very potent spice to help lower your blood sugars, okay? Like a little cinnamon toast. I'm just being sarcastic, okay? Don't do the toast. You can put cinnamon on all sorts of things, and I have a video on that as well. The next thing is chromium as a supplement, okay? Chromium picolinate supports the beta cells, the cells of the pancreas that produce insulin. That can help you as well. Vitamin D is another thing that can help the pancreas lower insulin. Potassium from the salads you're eating, the electrolyte powder, can significantly improve your blood sugars. And then vitamin B1 is also really important in helping with insulin resistance. All right, number 9, exercise. Not just any type of exercise, but a combination of both types of exercise, okay? I'm talking about anaerobic and aerobic. And what I mean by that is the type of exercise that can be done without oxygen, like the high intensity interval training type exercise. And then the other exercise with more oxygen, it's called aerobic, like walking, hiking, riding your bike, that type of thing. I would combine both. So if I were you, I would do some type of high intensity exercise, whether it's a spin bike, weights, plyometrics, pulling the sled. And there's just a million different type of exercises. But here's the thing, you want to do it to the point where you are going to be sore, not just the next day, but the next 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 days. That workout has to be significant. Okay, I have a lot more data on that. I will put a video down below. But you want to do that so you're really breaking down the body. So in the repair process, you have this huge spike of growth hormone, which also is going to mobilize a lot more fat, okay? And then on the days that you're resting, because you never want to work out over soreness, so you'll be resting for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 days or more until all that soreness is gone. The other days you can do the aerobic exercise. You go for the walks, go for the hiking, low type intensity workouts where you're not really getting sore, but you're building up your endurance. Okay, I would combine both of those. In number 10, periodic prolonged fasting. This is pure dynamite. I'm assuming you're doing regular intermittent fasting, hopefully maybe 1 meal a day called OMAD, but at the very minimum, 2 meals a day. Try to squish those together. But the periodic prolonged fasting is the icing on the cake. I'm sorry. It's the meat and potatoes of the program. I'm sorry, I'm going in the wrong direction there. It is the extra magic that's going to really tie everything together. So at the very minimum, every 2 weeks, do a 48-hour fast. Now, what's going to happen is you're going to mobilize a lot more fat and speed things up. And as you do this, you're going to get more comfortable to the point where you might be able to do it once a week. So on the weekends, it's a 48-hour fast. Here's the principle I really want you to focus on. Don't eat unless you're hungry. So many people that I'm consulting, that I'm talking to help debug their weight loss plateau, I'll ask them this. So you're doing OMAD, right? Yeah, I'm just doing 1 meal a day. I'm still not losing weight. I'll say, are you hungry before your 1 meal a day? And they'll go, oh, no, I'm not hungry at all. Then I'll ask them, why are you eating? But why not take advantage of a loss of appetite and go as long as you can? I've had people start this program and go 5 days without eating. Yes, they're doing their nutrients, their electrolyte powder and their nutritional yeast and other nutrients too, but they're not hungry, so they're not eating. And guess what? They get to their goal a lot faster because you have to realize when you're not hungry, your body is eating its own fat. And that's a healthy thing. It's mobilizing all this fat. And why mess it up with a meal? Okay, because every time you eat, regardless of what you eat, you're going to actually raise insulin to a certain degree. So for those people that need to lose a lot more weight, might as well take advantage of the loss of appetite, because what is the point of eating if you're not hungry? Your body is eating. I guess it's just something people think that, well, I just have to eat because of nutrients. Well, you can take nutrients. Why do you need the other foods? You only need them if you need energy, but your energy is coming from your fat. Now, if you have not seen my first video on the first 5 tips, I think it would be highly valuable to watch that. So that way you have all the information. And I put that video up right here. Check it out.